our collective emotions, our collective thought forms, anger, the separation from the atom, all of these things the elements hold. So when you say an offering with an awakened one, the elements rush forward. The earth, the winds, the water, the air, rush forward, and they can use those words to help heal them. And the more, and so it literally, and when it's done in a pure way, which without an intention, you don't have any intention. I'm not trying to make the wind come up. I'm not trying to do anything. This isn't for nothing other than just to offering it and thanking the elemental kingdom and releasing it. Then it becomes pure food for them to counteract the collective mind.
That is so
beautiful. Yeah. And at the same time, it mirrors inside yourself where you need to clean up your own act.
Right.
And that's the most important, because it's an inner process, actually. It isn't, we need to save the earth. We need to realign and clean up our own act. And in that process, collectively, as we all do it, the earth will, everything will start self-arising into a better world. But this is a big job, because you can see how many people we have. It almost looks like an impossible job at this point, but you still have to clean up your act. That's the purpose of being here.
Well, I'm super touched by, of course, your level of research, but also your devotion. And I'm gathering you've done these kinds of ceremonies all over the world, so I'd love to hear. You had some women send you some things from Hawaii, I know. There was pods and seeds from all over the world. I believe you said Israel. Can you explain some of the places that you've done ceremony around the world?
Yeah, so a lot of my work, and this is quiet work. It's not, I'm once in a while I'm asked to do it in a group, and I will, but it's my daily practice. So, and what happens in that daily practice, you learn from the elements themselves. And people somehow find that out about me. If I'm invited into a place, or if I write, a lot of things that come through it, I do write. That's how people find out a lot of times about me. So it just is a self-arising event that a friend in Hawaii received an offering I made, and the next thing I know, she's passing me. She told one of the Hawaiian, local, full-blooded Hawaiian, and they brought, and they sent dirt, they sent salt, and it just happens. I mean, somebody goes to Israel and they send me, they sent me bags of stones or something from there. I was presented, when I was teaching in Japan, I was presented salt from the Amaterasu shrine, which you can only even walk into that shrine in Ise with the permission of the emperor. Wow. And she had the salt, and she presented me the salt. And gave me it. So it just happens. I'm not trying to make it happen. It's just kind of in my flow. And I think a lot of that happens because of what I'm doing. And then I've traveled a lot too. So there were places that I actually gathered myself. And, before I was world traveling, I'm a bit older now, and so most of my offering work now is, located on the West Coast of the United States. But I've also done a lot through Miami. And it's silent. People don't know this. It's between me and the earth and trying to keep my intentions pure.
I love that.
So that's, it's, I'm not out there, going, I'm doing this, but, I do write about it. So that's how mostly people feel. And it's really not about me doing it. It's about us doing it and more people. And it doesn't have to be even in the tradition. Every tradition has something like this, actually. If you research, and you find it more in the East than you do in the Western tradition, but it's there in the Western tradition if you go to the deeper roots of the Western tradition.
Well, your writings are stunning. I've been on your website more recently, and I'd love for you to tell what a novena is, and then share about the purpose of them and the practice of what a novena is.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back a little. Okay, my training, I've had, I was raised Catholic, so I had that training from a really young age. And then at some point I walked out of that because it didn't speak to me anymore. I couldn't, And what happened is I ended up going into Native Americans for 12 years and working with Native people through the Sweat Lodge, which gave me a really direct connection with the earth. And then from there, I went back, and, there was a point that I learned as much as I could, and I realized I had to take that understanding of earth awareness and go back into my Christian roots and find those lost pieces. So right now I'm at this point of, and that search started in it actually started in 88, but it increased in 92 with, the realization of the Black Madonna and the Magdalene. So that's kind of been the journey.
And so novenas are a Catholic.
The novena is a Catholic practice. So it's a 9-day practice that uses either angels or saints or aspects of the Madonna, and they can be very, very simple to being quite complex. And you do that practice for 9 days, and usually there's an intention. And so that's what a novena is. And it has a very, very long tradition into the Middle Ages.
That was very new to me, honestly, but immediately in feeling the sensations and the frequency of it, I am very, very drawn to bringing this into my life as a personal practice.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm this part, well, this is kind of under my hat, but basically, part of what I've been doing is trying to find the truth and the roots in that masculine and feminine in Christianity, and looking at the doctrine a lot and cleaning that doctrine off from guilt and sin and things that actually inhibit us to having the divine experience. And so I've been rewriting the novenas and with very old roots, and some of these prayers I'm using actually come out of the Middle Ages. But I have to really research them deeply because I'm trying to find things that are still like Earth Days. They had prayers and blessings that bless the earth, to bless the crops, to bless the food. But I try to find things that, are not damnation, not guilt, and so that's been my research.
I love that. And so then you also make oils and flower essences, right?
I make what I started out gathering herbs. So this is kind of, when I was about 18 years old.
Uh-huh.
And going, so I was in that whole movement of the herbal renaissance of the early 70s. Mm-hmm. And so that a lot of that is kind of like my roots. And so right now what I'm doing in very small ways is I'm making, I've done a lot of flower essence, all of those type of things over the years. And right now, what my passion's been is distilling from the plants and making hydrosols, which are actually more earth-friendly than essential oils, because essential oils take so much of a plant. You can get the essential oil in the water. And then I mix those with oils and creams, and different oils that have been soaked in herbs also. And so I'm creating a lot of creams that way. And it's been a really awakening process for me, because the distiller is almost like, it's very symbolic, like finding the essence in the emotional body. Because you're literally extracting the essence or the essential oil from the plant, and it's in the water. And so it's interesting because wherever the plant is, whatever the plant's reflecting in its signature, I somehow go through the same emotional process as I'm doing it. So all of it's kind of like my own inner journey of awakening.
And it looks like my Nana was very into silver. We have a lot of those sort of dainty looking containers. I've seen the photos that you are making. Can you explain what the tools are that you use?
Okay, well, it depends, okay? I do a daily water offering in copper. And copper, I work with a lot with copper, the metal copper. My distiller is copper. It's from Portugal. My daily offering is in a copper bowl. And copper is the metal of Venus. But copper also is a great conductor of energy. So when I make an offering in copper, it conducts energy. Maybe if I make a water offering on a full moon, I will use silver. And the silver is more reflective. It's connected to the element of water and also the moon. And so that's more like a lunar offering. So those are basically the two metals I'm working with. And so I like making offerings in those type of containers. But any kind of bowl that's special to you, it really doesn't matter. This is just my own personal esoteric taste, so to speak.
Well, I know that must be in my field in some capacity, and my Nana had quite a lot of different silver. I'm not so sure on copper, but I've been using one of her bowls when I do my elemental prayers, and when I saw the photos of what you're doing, I was like, oh, there's just something in me that's so drawn to learning what you're doing and also sharing that with other women, because there's such a stunning frequency and softness and loving feminine energy to what you share, and it really touches my heart. And I'm so grateful that we're able to just kind of talk about this, because sometimes when we're touching into these kind of mystic things about us, we don't understand, but it's mysterious, but it feels good.
But I think that's the beauty about doing a practice for a certain amount of time, or for a long time, over months, or what happens is the mysteries unfold. It doesn't happen by running through the surface. It happens. I've been doing water offerings since the year 2000.
Beautiful.